Hey, it's Mr. Gray here. Season 8 of Game of Thrones is finally here, and I'm sure you're just as excited as I am. Winter has been coming approximately for 1 year, 7 months, and 18 days, and in just a few more hours, we get to enjoy Game of Thrones together. I can't wait. The only problem is, some of us have forgotten what happened in Season 7, Episode 7. And so that's why I'm here, so I can give us a quick recap of what happened in Season 7, Episode 7, so we're ready tonight at 9 o'clock to go Game of Thrones crazy together. At the beginning of Episode 7, you see the Unsullied standing patiently waiting at the gates of King's Landing. And you also see Jaime and Sir Bronn discussing the members of the Unsullied, or the lack thereof. Either way, they all think it's funny until they see the Targaryens pull up. Then they realize that they have a bigger issue. Jon Snow, Tyrion, one of the friendlier of the Clegane brothers, several Targaryens, and company are escorted by the King's Landing guards to the Dragon Pit to meet Cersei and her guard. Once at the Dragon Pit, Cersei and her guard and the uglier of the Clegane brothers finally shows up. And instead of looking like the Game of Thrones, it looks more like the game of angry faces, because everybody's upset with somebody about something that was done. But it's clear who wins this game. As Daenerys shows up on a dragon, it's clear that the dragon wins, and he has the angriest face of everybody in the ring. So before the meeting starts, the Hound has a few not very important words for his brother, the Mountain. Once again, I said they're not that important, but maybe later we'll understand one thing that the Hound says to his brother. You know who's coming for you. You always known who was coming for you. He said it kind of like that, but maybe not exactly. Anyway, we'll find out later. Snow and Daenerys are pretty much hoping to convince Cersei to call a truce until they can defeat the White Walkers in the north. She's not initially inclined to do so until they show her what a White Walker and that it truly exists. And then she is absolutely terrified and definitely convinced that there needs to be a deal for a truce. So she does say, we will do that. We will call a truce. But she asks of one thing, that Jon Snow stay in the north after the battle is finished. Jon immediately refuses her offer because he has, in other words, bent the knee to Daenerys. Yeah, sure. Whatever we want to call it. Anyway, she doesn't like his answer, and she disagrees to actually having a truce, and she goes back to the castle. So Tyrion, being the clever worded person he is, and also brave in a certain aspect, decides that he needs to go talk to his sister alone, which is indeed stupid, but also the only thing that may potentially work. So he goes to see his sister, and it's just him, his sister, and the Mountain, the one person who can lob off his head probably with his hand. But anyway, after talking with his sister and having a long, very, intense discussion, she comes back to the pit, and she decides that yes, they'll have a truce and that they'll also fight along the Targaryens and the Unsullied. So Sansa and Littlefinger have been spending lots of time alone together, not intimate type of time together, but more so he's considered her advisor in so many words. Either way, you can tell at some point that he's not necessarily advising her, but trying to lead her in so many ways to believe that her sister is plotting on her to become the Lady of Winterfell. And you can't really tell how Sansa feels about that, but you can tell that he's conniving and he's a jerk, and I can't wait till he's dead. Anyway, I just want him to die. I can't stand Littlefinger. Who can? So it's sentencing day. Sansa and Bran at the table, and several military people surrounding the room. And then also Littlefinger, the guy I hate, is standing in the corner as Arya comes into the room. Sansa gets ready to talk, Or she does talk. She doesn't get ready to talk. Anyway, Sansa talks, and what she says is that you are being charged with treason, murder, and so forth and so forth. Of course, Littlefinger, the dummy he is over there smiling. And then all of a sudden, Sansa turns to Littlefinger and says, "How do you plead?" And I'm like, I love this world. Finally, this idiot is going to get what he deserves. Anyway, he begs like a... I hate him. He begs like a little jerk he is, and he begs. He uses conniving words initially, then those don't work, and then he begs like a little punk, and he gets on his knees, and eventually Sansa gives the permission to Arya to end his life, which is a very, very, very joyous moment for me. I'm sorry, that's not the type of stuff I typically say, but I enjoyed it. For the first time in my life, I enjoyed somebody being disposed of because he was useless. And that's where his story ends in the Game of Thrones. Goodbye, Littlefinger. So later after the meeting in the pit with Daenerys, Jon Snow, and Cersei admits to Jaime that she never had any intentions on sending her men to the north. And she won't be. And Jaime can't agree with her on that. He says he gave his word to help fight, and he's going to go fight. And she also admits to him that she actually sent... Aegon Greyjoy to go get some mercenaries from another country to actually help bolster their ranks. So when Daenerys and Jon Snow, the Unsullied and Targaryens, finish battling in the north, they'll have a stronger army in King's Landing. Either way, this just proves once again that Cersei's a jerk. Times 2 divided by 4. Oh, that's not divided. Times 2. Anyway, she's a jerk. Let's know that. Tarly visits Bran in his room, and he informs Bran that Jon Snow indeed is not a bastard. He is actually the son of some Targaryen person that I can't remember the name of, but you can Google that later. Either way, he's a legitimate, not a bastard, son of a Targaryen. It just so happens, though, that Targaryen is the older brother of Daenerys. So you should probably know what that means. Either way, Bran uses his third eye, his all-seeing powers and such, to see that Tarly's actually telling the truth. And we are now enlightened. So, with a little bit more knowledge in our heads about what Daenerys and Jon Snow actually are, they're related, more related than most people that get together in that sort of way. On the boat, Jon Snow goes to her cabin door and he knocks on it and she lets him in, and they unknowingly make sweet incestual auntie and nephew love. Weirdly, you're kind of happy that they're together, but knowing that they're relatives makes it seem a little weird. So anyway, if you like that kind of thing, they're together. Yay. The last scene of Game of Thrones, you see Tormund standing on the wall looking out into the cold, and you don't really see much at first, but slowly you start to see White Walkers come out of the woods. You don't think too much of it at first, but then you realize there's thousands of them, and then you see their leader. I think you see 2. Yeah, you see 2 initially. And then, as they look upon the White Walkers coming out the woods, everyone looks up. And what you realize is they have a real problem. The White Walkers have a dragon. And at that moment, that dragon starts blowing what is the most awesome looking fire I've ever seen at the wall. And before the show ends, you see the wall coming down, crashing. And that's where the show ends. So I hope you enjoyed this little recap. We only have a few more hours to go before the show gets to going, and I am excited. I'm going to have my popcorn. I'm going to have some water. I know that's not the most exciting drink ever, but that's what I'm going to be drinking, some ice cold water, and I'm going to be sitting in front of my television ready for this to go down. Let's do it.